Love them or hate them, the late 90s belonged to Limp Bizkit. They were everywhere. But before they were headlining festivals and breaking stuff on national TV, before Fred Durst was a nu metal icon in his backward cap and baggy pants, he was just a tattoo artist from Jacksonville, Florida, trying to figure out his place in a world that didn't seem to have one for him. This is the story of how Limp Bizkit rose to fame. Fred Durst was born in 1970 in Gastonia, North Carolina, and raised in a trailer park. His father was a cop, his mother a cashier. From the start, Durst had a rebellious streak. He was obsessed with skateboarding, breakdancing, punk rock, and hip-hop, an unusual blend for a Southern kid in the 80s. He described himself as a weird little white kid who didn't fit in anywhere.
Switch to way. And don't wait for somebody to ask and pretend this jam is one of your last. Because the beat is classified stereotype. I'm not a man in the crowd because everybody is hype.
After graduating high school, he joined the Navy but dropped out. He worked odd jobs, dishwashing, landscaping, and eventually became a tattoo artist. That job would change everything. While working at a Florida tattoo parlor in the early 90s, Durst was already dreaming of starting a band that combined his love of hip-hop and heavy music. But Jacksonville wasn't exactly a hotbed for groundbreaking music scenes. Still, Durst had a gift. Not necessarily for musicianship, but for hustling. He started handing out demos to anyone who'd listen, telling anyone who'd give him 5 minutes that he was going to be famous. He wasn't just confident, he was borderline delusional. And sometimes, that's what it takes. The core of Limp Bizkit started coming together in 1994. Wes Borland, an eccentric and wildly talented guitarist known for performing in bizarre costumes and face paint, joined the band early on. Borland was from Nashville originally, and he brought an art school sensibility that would set the band apart from their more one-note peers. They added bassist Sam Rivers and drummer John Otto, Rivers' cousin. DJ Lethal, formerly of House of Pain, joined later and brought serious credibility to their sound. It's just one of those days when you don't want to wake up. The name Limp Bizkit was Fred's idea. He wanted something ridiculous, something that would turn people off, force them to pay attention, or immediately walk away. It worked. Early critics called it one of the worst band names ever. Durst considered it a test. If you could get past the name, maybe you were open-minded enough to get what they were doing. Fred Durst was constantly networking, trying to embed himself in the rising nu metal scene, and that's how Limp Bizkit landed their first big break. In 1995, Korn came through Jacksonville on tour. Fred Durst gave them a homemade demo tape and then offered to tattoo them for free. Legend has it he tattooed both their bassist and guitarist in his shop that night. That tape eventually made its way to Ross Robinson, the producer behind Korn's early albums. Ross didn't love Limp Bizkit at first, but he saw potential, mostly in their raw energy and Fred's conviction. What sealed the deal wasn't the music, it was their live show. Early Limp Bizkit gigs in Jacksonville were unhinged. Fred would climb rafters, jump into crowds, and tear up stages. Wes Borland's costumes made the band look like a post-apocalyptic art project, and DJ Lethal scratched over crushing guitar riffs like a hip-hop maniac. In 1997, they signed with Flip/Interscope Records. Their debut album, $3 Bill, Y'all, was raw and chaotic. It didn't catch fire immediately, but their cover of George Michael's Faith, twisted into an angry, distorted headbanger, started generating buzz.
Without devotion, well, it takes a strong man, baby, but I'm showing you that door, not gonna happen.
And then came the real break, MTV. Fred Durst understood the power of visuals. He leaned hard into the band's image, backwards cap, oversized clothes, chains, and directed many of their videos himself. In an era where music videos could make or break a band, Limp Bizkit became impossible to ignore. By the time Significant Other dropped in 1999, Limp Bizkit was a cultural force. Nookie exploded on MTV, and suddenly Fred Durst was everywhere. The album debuted at #1. The band's blend of anger, swagger, and self-loathing hit at the exact right moment. Right before Y2K, right when youth culture was turning chaotic. But then came Woodstock '99, and everything changed.
How many people here ever woke up one morning and just decided it wasn't one of those days and you're gonna break some shit?
Limp Bizkit was scheduled for a prime Saturday night slot. By that point, the festival had already started spiraling out of control. It was 100 degrees, water was $4 a bottle, and the crowd was getting more aggressive by the hour. Organizers were worried. Before the band went on, Fred Durst was warned by promoters to calm the crowd down. Instead, during their set, Durst doubled down. They opened with Break Stuff, a song literally about losing control. During the set, fans began tearing plywood off the walls, crowd surfing on it, and breaking barricades. Durst later said he didn't realize how bad it had gotten. That from the stage, it just looked like a crowd going wild. But video footage shows a different story.
Bizkit has gone off stage. Fred, have you ever seen anything like that in your life?
I can tell you, I've never done anything like that in my life.
How scary was it for you up there when they started ripping that place apart and they started taking the plywood off the towers and stuff?
Oh my God. Dude, it's not our fault. That's all I can say.
It was one of the most infamous performances in festival history, and it marked the beginning of the backlash.
I know why you wanna hate me. Now I know why you wanna hate me. 'Cause hate is all the world has even seen lately.
In the years that followed, Limp Bizkit became a lightning rod for everything critics hated about nu metal: macho posturing, frat boy aggression, shallow lyrics. Fred Durst, once the genre's unlikely prophet, became its punchline. But behind the scenes, Durst kept working. He directed films, signed other artists to Interscope, and tried, unsuccessfully, to reinvent the band's sound. They never recaptured their late 90s peak, but they never fully disappeared either. But decades later, Limp Bizkit is being reassessed. Gen Z found their old videos on TikTok. Fred Durst leaned into the meme, showing up in dad costumes, embracing the joke. In a strange way, he won again. Because what most people missed about Fred Durst, back in the day, is that he was always in on the joke. The name, the look, the attitude, it was all performance. He knew it was absurd. He leaned into it.
Limp Bizkit was like, just like culturally phenomenal level.
Wow.
Right?
I mean, it's hard for me to say that, but hear you say that, it's a big deal.
It was a big thing.
We definitely had a moment there, and it was just something that I didn't expect.
The story of Limp Bizkit isn't just about music. It's about the power of belief. A tattoo artist from Jacksonville convinced the world he belonged on stage next to legends. And for a moment, he did.